All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking what might honestly be the most explosive blueprint of corporate fraud in recent history. We are looking at the literal anatomy of a bribe and how one massive corporate empire, Bosasa, managed to quietly infiltrate and essentially capture the organs of an entire government.
So where are we getting all this? We're drawing our facts directly from Part 3, Volume 1 of the official Judicial Commission of Inquiry into State Capture Report, which was chaired by Justice R.M.M. Zondo. This is an immense, meticulously detailed document, and this specific volume is entirely dedicated to uncovering just a single entity's staggering operations. Think about the sheer weight of that for a second. It represents years of sworn testimony, forensic audits, and rigorous legal investigation into how a company built itself entirely on illicit influence.
And I think the crucial point is summarized perfectly by the commission itself, right here. They wrote, Bosasa and its directors and other officials simply had no shame in engaging in acts of corruption. You have to remember, this isn't just an allegation being thrown around. This is the formal, objective conclusion of a judicial inquiry. It sets the stakes for us right out of the gate. We're not talking about a few bad apples here. We are looking at widespread corruption that literally became a company's standard operating procedure.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to systematically walk through the report to uncover this machine. We'll hit 1. The state capture report, 2. The Bosasa machine, 3. Generating the cash, 4. The web of influence, and finally 5. The whistleblower's evidence.
Okay, Part 1. The State Capture Report. Let's quickly establish the scope of this inquiry.
You know what's truly wild about this? The Bosasa Group actually wasn't even mentioned in the initial public protector's report that triggered this entire commission in the first place. But as the investigation widened, this incredible truth emerged. Widespread corruption, bribery, and fraud wasn't just a side hustle for Bosasa, you know? It was, quite literally, their primary way of doing business.
Moving on to Part 2. The Bosasa machine. Let's meet the architects behind this whole facade.
The report meticulously identifies the core leadership that engineered this massive culture of bribery. Right at the top, you had CEO Gavin Watson, alongside his Chief Operations Officer Angelo Agrizzi, and they were supported by directors like Joe Gumede and Papa Leshabane. Behind these very standard, boring corporate titles, these figures were actually coordinating a highly complex illicit machine.
And the duality here is fascinating. It's like a split personality. Publicly, Bosasa promoted themselves heavily through broad-based Black economic empowerment initiatives. They were projecting this very progressive corporate image to win public trust. But behind closed doors, the report uncovers their true underworld tactics: systemic money laundering, illicit cash generation, and this incredibly strict pact of silence. It was a massive hypocrisy, entirely designed to hide what was essentially an organized criminal enterprise.
All right, Part 3, generating the cash. Because when your entire business model relies on bribery, you need a lot of liquid capital.
So you got to wonder, and it's the fundamental question the commission had to answer, how exactly did Bosa generate the cash? Because when a huge corporation needs millions in untraceable cash to just hand over to officials, they can't exactly write a company check for it, right? They need a highly sophisticated process to liquidate assets and do it quietly.
Well, the report walks us through their exact playbook, step by step. First, they'd create a fake paper trail by generating false invoices to external entities. Second, they were just brazenly billing the government for goods and services they never actually delivered. Third, they were skimming cash sales directly off the top at facilities they were contracted to manage. And fourth, and this is probably the craziest one, they were routing payments to ghost employees who didn't even exist just so they could pocket those phantom salaries. It was a highly diversified portfolio of absolute fraud. And get this, where did all this physical cash actually go once they had it? The report describes something that sounds almost cinematic. We're not talking about some abstract digital wire transfer scheme here. CEO Gavin Watson literally kept large, walk-in vaults in physical safes stuffed with millions in physical rand banknotes, just waiting to be packed into bags for compromised officials. It's wild.
Which brings us to Part 4, the web of influence. Let's look at exactly who and what was being bought with all that vault cash.
This is where you see the sheer scale of the infiltration, and it is staggering. Bosasa embedded itself into the core functions of the state. The Department of Correctional Services compromised on catering, access control, and fencing. Home Affairs compromised on the Lindella contract. They even infiltrated the Department of Education through a school tablet project and targeted the Department of Justice with security upgrades. These are fundamental public services we're talking about, just bought and paid for.
And to secure those contracts, they didn't aim low. They targeted the absolute highest levels of leadership, completely regardless of political affiliation. The report explicitly names the figures caught in this web. Former President Jacob Zuma, with meetings noted at Nkanla. Nomvula Mokonjene, linked to a birthday party and cash payments, alongside other major figures like Gwede Montashe, Duda Mayeni, and Cedric Frolic. Their strategy was crystal clear: capture influence at the very top of the food chain.
But here's the ironic twist. What is truly remarkable about all this is how carefully it was documented by the perpetrators themselves. CO Angelo Agrizzi meticulously tracked this vast network of bribes in his own personal black book. And actually, that ledger of corruption would eventually become the ultimate roadmap for the Commission to untangle the entire conspiracy.
Finally, Part 5, the whistleblower's evidence and the dramatic unraveling of the empire.
So, as law enforcement finally started closing in, Bosasa went to desperate lengths to cover their tracks. Way back in 2007, they orchestrated a fake server crash to purposefully wipe their data. Then, for a decade, from 2009 to 2018, they systematically destroyed evidence ahead of raids. And even as late as 2019, they were actively, physically burying evidence at a facility called CARC while deleting files from the Special Investigating Unit. It was just this prolonged, chaotic scramble to hide the truth.
And alongside destroying evidence, they started operating almost like a mafia. The report notes severe threats made against Agrizzi when he decided to speak out. They intimidated investigative journalists, they fiercely enforced that pact of silence among their employees, and they even attempted to interfere directly with National Prosecuting Authority investigations. They basically used every tool of fear they had available to them.
Ultimately, though, the walls fell because of the insider evidence provided by Angelo Agrizzi, and the Commission took a very objective, realistic stance on him. The report notes, his motives or reasons for spilling the beans may have largely been personal, but has been very helpful to this Commission and to the country. They fully acknowledge his deep complicity in these crimes and his personal fallout with CEO Gavin Watson. Yet without his testimony and that infamous black book, the full staggering scope of this corruption might literally never have seen the light of day.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering question to take away from all of this. When a corporate entity operates entirely as a machine for bribery, where does the company end and the captured state begin? This explainer really shows us that state capture isn't just about the politicians. It's about the corporate architectures that weaponize cash to buy power. Thank you so much for joining me. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.